What's good, everybody? Ani Singh here. In today's video, it's going to be dissecting the war in Iraq. Was it really a war? I want to get into the key players, which is Dick Cheney, and I want to talk about Dick Cheney. So this is just some of his accolades. If you guys don't know who he is, he was the 46th Vice President of the USA under the George W. Bush administration during 2001 to 2009. He was the Secretary of Defense during the George H.W. Bush administration from 1989 to 93. He was the Chairman and CEO of Halliburton. It's an oil company. I'm going to get into that later. It's going to all connect from 1995 to 2000. He previously served as White House Chief of Staff for President Gerald Ford in 1975 and 1977. So he is no new figure. He's been in the politics game, been in the political game, he's been in the White House for many different administrations. He knows the game, he knows how to play it. Now I want to go over his CEO tenure at Halliburton and talk about the company Halliburton, because you're going to see them pop up again in the Iraq war. Halliburton is the second largest oil service company. He served right before his vice president term, and he served there right before the Iraq war and the global war on terrorism. Seems suspicious, maybe, maybe not, maybe just it might be a coincidence. Okay, let's chalk that up for a coincidence. But he was the CEO of Halliburton, and Halliburton's going to play a role into the Iraq war. I want to go over Dick Cheney's vice president term from 2001 to 2009. Months into his term, him and George Bush declared war on terrorism and the war on Iraq, off the belief alleging the Saddam Hussein regime possessed weapons of mass destruction and had an operational relationship with Al-Qaeda. This is all alleged. However, both of these allegations were never proven. Off to a pretty good start, Dick Cheney and George Bush. Cheney ended his vice president tenure as a deeply unpopular figure in American politics. With an approval rating of 13%, his peak approval rating was in the wake of September 11 attacks, 68%. Now let's get into the Iraq war overview. I want to talk about civilian deaths, the overview, basically the effect of the Iraq war. President Bush received a classified President's Daily Brief on September 21st, 2001, indicating the U.S. intelligence community had no evidence linking Saddam Hussein to the September 11 attacks, and that there was scant credible evidence that Iraq had any significant collaborative ties with Al-Qaeda. So the alleged belief that why they went into war was already disproven by the CIA before they enacted the global war on terrorism, the war in Iraq. Cheney responded to a question about the public opinion poll showing that Americans had lost confidence in the war by simply replying, "So?" He said "so" to the American people, saying they had lost faith in the confidence in the war. The U.S. President George W. Bush vowed to disarm Iraq and to free its people. That's what he said. He vowed. The U.S.-led forces killed 37 of all civilian victims in the first 2 years of the Iraq war. In the first 2 years of the war, there was around 25,000 civilian deaths. WikiLeaks had a total death count on the Iraq war at civilian for total 109,000 recorded deaths. Let's get into the WikiLeaks and what they dropped through the war logs. On October 22nd, 2010, WikiLeaks, they declassified the war logs in Iraq. Basically showed everything, day to day, what happened, civilian casualties, massacres, everything ranging from food supply drops to whatever happened that day, they're on the war logs. In the war logs, it had the Apache helicopter killings. A U.S. Apache helicopter killed 2 Iraqis in February 2007, even though they were trying to surrender. This is all in the WikiLeaks, all in the war logs. The helicopter unit that was the same that killed 12 people and wounded 2 children in July 2007. This is the same Apache helicopter unit. They had 2 different events of civilian death. This is a log word for word from the 2007 Apache killings. U.S. Soldier 1, have individuals with weapon. U.S. Soldier 2, you're clear. U.S. Soldier 1, all right, firing. U.S. Soldier 3, let me know when you got them. U.S. Soldier 2, let's shoot, light them up. U.S. Soldier 1, come on, fire. U.S. Soldier 2, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting, keep shooting. U.S. Soldier 4, Hotel Bushmaster 26, Bushmaster 26, we need to move, time now. U.S. Soldier 2, all right, we just engaged all 8 individuals. The soldiers, before firing on the civilians, asked their lawyer, these men are trying to surrender, what do we do? These are in the war logs. There's a quote unquote, these men are trying to surrender, what do we do? And they're told more than once they can't surrender, you should go ahead and kill them. So what we see is orders coming from a high level. It's not the actual troops, it's not the generals, the people on the field, it's not them. Those are good people, they're good soldiers, but they're following orders coming from a higher power. This attack killed 2 Reuters employees, the videographer Namir Nur Eldin and the driver Saeed Kam, the father of 4. These are more unethical civilian deaths that were in the war logs The logs also showed U.S. gunships killed even more civilians just 4 days later after the July attack. On July 16, 2007, 14 civilians were reported dead in the U.S. attack in eastern Baghdad. Private military firm Blackwater has killed more Iraqi civilians than previously known. There are reports of 14 separate shooting incidents involving Blackwater forces, resulting in the deaths of 10 civilians and wounding of 7 others. That doesn't even include the Nisor Square massacre that killed 17 civilians by Blackwater. First, civilian casualties. You could chalk someone up to coincidence. Oh, I didn't know, they didn't know. You could say, oh, they're in war. You can't tell friend from foe, but come on, if you're having this much civilian killing, it comes to a point, it comes to a point where what was the true cause of the war? Why are we in war? What's happening? Why are civilians dying at this precedented rate? Why are there so many civilian massacres happening? You gotta ask yourself these questions. But civilian torturing. There's an order called Frago 242, where the U.S. troops were sustained from investigating any violations the Iraqi military did. So whatever the Iraqi military did, the U.S. troops on the ground cannot intervene, cannot stop unethical wrongdoing. They cannot intervene. They cannot say anything. The Wolf Brigade, this was a special commando unit under the charge of the Ministry of Interior in Iraq. Their main job was it went out and pulled in people to interrogate, to get information, etc., etc. But it pulled in mostly Sunni insurgents and tortured them. U.S. advisors watched this happen as well. There are well-documented accounts of U.S. military advisors, Colonel James Steele being with the Wolf Brigade in the town of Samara when they brought in prisoners. A New York Times journalist could hear them screaming in pain and terror outside while he was in the room with Steele. Who was giving these orders? It isn't the people fighting. It isn't the soldiers. It isn't even the generals. Who is giving these orders? Why is there so much happening? Why are people just getting off the hook? Why are people killing civilians? What's going on? Who is giving the orders? This is a convo. This is who I think is giving the orders. It's obviously all alleged. Just off of my research, this is all alleged. This is not actually what happened, but alleged. This is a conversation between then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and then Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Peter Pace about the Frago 242 order. General Peter Pace: it is absolutely the responsibility of every U.S. service member, if they see inhumane treatment being conducted, to intervene to stop it. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld: I don't think you mean they have an obligation to physically stop it. It's to report it. I think it's the people like Donald Rumsfeld, people like Dick Cheney, people like Mr. Bush, who is responsible for all these horrendous slaughter of civilians. They should be the ones held accountable, not our troops, not the generals. They were just following orders, because people like Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney had the power to stop all this from happening, had the power to redact the Frago 242 order and actually hold those Iraqi military people accountable for what they did. And remember the company Halliburton, the second largest oil service company in the world. Dick Cheney was the CEO, 1995 to 2000. Halliburton gained $39.5 billion in federal contracts related to the Iraqi war. After all that I just said, Halliburton gained $39.5 billion in federal contracts. Dick Cheney was the CEO of Halliburton. Suspicious coincidence? I don't know. That is up for you guys to decide, but that was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What was your thoughts on the war in Iraq? Remember, all this is just alleged, but the WikiLeaks War Log had all this information. But yeah, that was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a good day.